A dream vacation quickly turns into a nightmare in the middle of the ocean. Two young tourists unwittingly fall into the deadly trap of Captain Tucker, a deranged man who sacrifices humans to sharks and records it all on video. Zephyr, an independent surfer, is kidnapped and held captive on the death ship. She is forced to fight for survival, rescue Moses, and face both the sharks and the real monster, humans. This is a breathless survival chase in the ocean, where instinct, courage, and a little luck will determine who survives. Join me today as we explore the new movie Dangerous Creatures, released in 2025. In the scorching heat of Australia, young friends Greg and Heather eagerly set off to find the Tucker experience, an adventurous journey at sea, where tourists are locked in steel cages to witness sharks in the ocean. At this moment, Captain Tucker appears and introduces himself to the two. He knew that the two were not lovers, they were just traveling together and had overslept, so the rest of the group had gone on a picnic without them. Left alone, they decided to go to the Tucker experience for the adventure. Knowing that no one knew they were there, Tucker asked them if they had written their wills yet, simply because they were about to swim with sharks. Without a hint of fear, the two boarded the boat with Tucker and headed out to sea. On the way, Tucker recounted his terrifying childhood memory of being attacked by a great white shark while surfing, leaving a horrific scar on his back that still haunts him to this day. When they reached the middle of the ocean, Tucker began throwing pieces of meat into the sea, luring the sharks closer. After changing, Heather hesitated to get in, so Greg went over to encourage her, but seeing the sharks swimming by made her even more terrified. However, thanks to the captain's strange technique of calming her nerves, closing her eyes, taking deep breaths, and singing Baby Shark, she gradually stabilized her emotions. The two stepped into the steel cage and were lowered into the sea. At first, Heather panicked when she saw the sharks swimming around them, but with Greg's encouragement, she gradually began to see them as magnificent creatures, peacefully gliding through the water. When they returned to the boat, both couldn't hide their excitement and thanked Tucker for this wonderful experience. But then disaster struck. Tucker suddenly stabbed Greg in the neck with a knife and pushed him into the water, where the sharks were waiting below. He turned to Heather with a vicious look in his eyes, while she could only scream in horror at the scene. The scene shifts to Gold Coast, Australia. Zephyr, a girl who loves surfing, has a free-spirited lifestyle and wanders along the coast, enjoying the ocean waves. After surfing, she stops by a convenience store to buy water and happens to meet Moses, a real estate agent who needs to borrow a car charger cable. The store didn't have one, so he turned to ask Zephyr but didn't get any help either. When he returned to his car, Moses was waiting for Zephyr there. He asked her to take him to a place to park and charge his car, threatening to report the store for theft if she didn't help him. Although she didn't want to get involved with Moses, Zephyr reluctantly agreed to help, but on the way, Zephyr was not very happy with Moses. When she took Moses to the car, Zephyr discovered surfboards in the trunk. Knowing that Moses was also a surfing enthusiast made Zephyr feel closer to him, and he even told Zephyr about a spot with good waves where she could surf. Moses said he was only joking about reporting Zephyr at the store, and Zephyr apologized for judging him by his appearance. The two made up and introduced themselves. After the car was fixed, Moses invited her to dinner, but it was actually Zephyr's dinner. The chance encounter turned into a romantic evening in Zephyr's car. At the height of the moment, the key caused Moses pain, and he immediately threw it out the window. After dinner, Moses said he wanted Zephyr to live with him, but Zephyr refused because she was used to a life of wandering everywhere. She also liked surfing because she no longer had anything on land that belonged to her. Moses remained silent, respecting Zephyr's opinion. Before dawn, Moses woke up early to prepare breakfast for Zephyr, but when he returned, Zephyr had already driven away. She went to the beautiful waves Moses had mentioned earlier to experience them. While getting ready, Zephyr realized she had left a surfboard key at Moses' house. While fumbling around looking for it, she spotted an old truck parked nearby and called out to the owner. Tucker approached from a distance, startling Zephyr. She explained that she just wanted to borrow the key to adjust her board. Tucker was friendly, gave her the key, and said he would come back for it later. She thanked him and began tightening the fins under the board. A few minutes later, Zephyr received a message from Moses saying he had finished preparing breakfast and would come to surf with her. She was about to reply when Tucker suddenly grabbed her from behind and covered her face with a nylon bag. Despite struggling, Zephyr quickly passed out and he injected a dose of sedative into her body. He tied her up in a bag and put her in a truck, then took a surfboard and threw it into the sea to make it look like an accident. He quickly took Zephyr to his boat to lock her up. At this time, Moses had brought breakfast to the beach for Zephyr. He checked and found that the car was locked, and looked out at the beach but didn't see Zephyr anywhere. Moses took his phone to call her and discovered it was in the car, thinking she had gone somewhere, so Moses could only go home. By this time, Zephyr had woken up from her stupor and found herself handcuffed in a strange room. There she met Heather, a survivor of the Tucker experience. Zephyr immediately tried to remove the handcuffs and kept calling for help, but Heather said it was useless because she had tried many times. In fact, They didn't know that Tucker had taken them far from land, so no one could hear their cries for help. Zephyr looked around for something like a hair clip to open the lock, and she nearly froze when she saw a name carved on the wall. Heather then told Zephyr about her previous experience with Greg, and Zephyr realized that no one knew they were here. That afternoon, Moses returned to the beach and saw Zephyr's car being towed away. Moses quickly went to the police station and explained that the car belonged to Zephyr, that it was her only home, and that they shouldn't keep it. The police asked him for Zephyr's information, and Moses realized he didn't even know her last name. Meanwhile, Heather was still talking to Zephyr. Heather felt guilty for disobeying her mother and traveling alone. The mother and daughter had argued a lot, and now she had no chance to apologize to her. Zephyr also said that she had to live without parents, that she had lived in a foster home since she was a child and was abused by the men there. So she drifted everywhere and became passionate about surfing. Just then, Zephyr noticed that Heather's bra had steel underwire. Heather quickly took it off and handed it to Zephyr, who was finally able to remove the steel underwire. But before he could unlock the handcuffs, Tucker came in with water and food. To avoid being discovered, the two could only listen to Tucker drinking water and eating bread so that he would quickly leave. As soon as he left, Zephyr quickly used the steel wire to open the handcuffs, but soon both she and Zephyr began to feel dizzy. Zephyr tried to hold on but dropped the steel wire on the ground. Immediately after, Tucker returned and discovered their plot. He said he liked people who knew how to fight and resist. When she woke up, Zephyr found herself tied to a chair, while Heather was unconscious, wearing a shirt attached to a crane cable. Tucker turned on the lights and prepared the camera, ready to record his performance. He cut a lock of Heather's hair, then woke her up to prepare for this terrifying show. Before starting, Tucker rambled on about how sharks aren't really as dangerous as people think. They only act on instinct, and because they've been hunted so much, they see humans as a threat. Tucker activated the crane to lift Heather up and suspend her a few meters above the water. He also used bait to attract more sharks. Heather was terrified and kept begging him to let her go. When the sharks began to gather, he lowered Heather into the sea, then replayed the entire moment of Heather's attack. Zephyr could only beg and cry out in despair, but it was too late. Heather was attacked by the hungry sharks and quickly devoured. The madman enjoyed every terrifying second of the victim and Zephyr. Tucker said that tomorrow night would be Zephyr's performance. Returning to the room, Zephyr carved his and Heather's names on the wall to prove that they had been locked up here. However, when she wiped away the thin layer of paint, Zephyr discovered other women's names written densely beneath it. It turned out that Tucker used the victim's hair to make fishing hooks. In his wooden cabinet were dozens of rolls of tape with hooks attached, the sick trophies of the murderer Tucker. Zephyr was still trying to escape from the handcuffs, but it was impossible. The next morning, only a small part of Heather's body was left floating in the sea. On this side, Moses went out to sea to surf, hoping to find Zephyr, but she still did not appear, leaving Moses disappointed and returning home. Just then, he discovered Zephyr's surfboard and reported it to the rescue team. Meanwhile, the girl he was looking for was still imprisoned in the cold ship's hold. Tucker reappeared with food and water for Zephyr, but after being drugged the night before, she no longer trusted him. Zephyr kicked the food tray onto the floor. Tucker suppressed his anger and began his empty speech about sharks and the food chain again. Unable to bear it any longer, Zephyr interrupted him and said that sharks, though considered monsters, were still far nobler than him. She did not hesitate to criticize him as a pathetic coward, using his painful past as an excuse to torment innocent women. Tucker was nothing but trash floating on this sea. Her sharp words made Tucker flustered, but he silently walked away, leaving her with only a bucket and toilet paper as her only living necessities. As soon as the door closed, Zephyr immediately removed the plastic handle from the bucket and snapped it in two. She would use it as a knife to finish Tucker off. At this moment, Tucker was eating dinner and re-watching the tape of Heather being attacked by the sharks, the rage inside him gradually growing stronger. After dinner, he began mixing the anesthetic into a syringe to prepare for Zephyr. When he entered the cell, Tucker saw that Zephyr was asleep and approached to inject her. Taking advantage of his carelessness, she jumped up and stabbed him in the shoulder with a knife. Tucker fell backward, hitting his head on the bed frame and losing consciousness. Zephyr quickly searched his pockets for the key to unlock the handcuffs. Just as she managed to unlock them, he woke up. Zephyr tried to lock him in the room, but with his superior strength, he easily overpowered her. She ran up the stairs, but Tucker grabbed her leg and injected her with a sleeping drug. Even so, Zephyr still managed to kick him, causing him to fall backward and crash into the control room. She tried to send a signal via radio but failed. Feeling desperate, she spotted a yacht not far away. Zephyr hurried outside to seek help, but the sedative began to take effect. Tucker reappeared and slowly approached to capture Zephyr. Zephyr immediately grabbed his camera and threw it into the sea to distract him. Then she also jumped into the sea and tried to swim toward the yacht, but before she got very far, the sedative took effect, causing her to gradually sink. On the second day since Moses discovered Zephyr's board, the rescue team was still searching for Zephyr's body in the sea. At this point, Zephyr woke up and realized she had been recaptured by Tucker, who had gagged her and tied her hands to prevent her from repeating last night's events. Tucker took the boat back to port to buy a new camera and food. His neighbor said 2 billionaires had come to sign up for the shark swimming experience and were willing to pay extra for tonight. But at this moment, Tucker was only excited about Zephyr's performance tonight. Determined not to give up, Moses decided to check the security cameras around the beach. Luckily, there was a camera placed near where Zephyr's car was parked. Moses saw images of Zephyr's car driving by, and half an hour later, a pickup truck driving back with the Tucker Experience logo. He immediately investigated and discovered that it was an experience service organized by Tucker. Suspecting that he was involved in Zephyr's disappearance, Moses followed the trail alone to the port, determined to get to the bottom of things. Finally, Moses found Tucker's boat, but when he knocked on the door, no one answered. On the quiet ship, he suddenly heard banging and cries. Convinced it was Zephyr, he hastily used an iron hook to break the window and get inside. Just as he expected, he found Zephyr locked in the basement. Zephyr told him to find something to unlock the door and call the police immediately before the man returned. Unexpectedly, Tucker came back and knocked Moses flying. Moses refused to give up and punched him in the face, but it was like a mosquito bite. Before Moses could answer, Tucker punched him and knocked his phone away. Not stopping there, Tucker kicked Moses in the face, stunning him. As Tucker prepared to finish Moses off, Moses grabbed the bag containing the camera and smashed it into Tucker's face. Moses quickly grabbed the hook and used all his strength to hold Tucker's neck, but Tucker tried to escape and couldn't. When he was about to suffocate, the neighbor thought Moses was the bad guy and knocked him unconscious. When he heard cries for help from the basement, Tucker seized the hook and killed him immediately. Seeing Tucker return, Zephyr knew he had defeated Moses. Upon reaching the control room, Tucker discovered the ship was running low on fuel, so he changed his plan to a closer location called Hangman's Bay. At this point, Moses woke up to the reality that he and Zephyr were in the middle of the ocean, in the hands of a murderous man, with little time left to survive. Although the rescue attempt failed, the moment of reunion still made Zephyr and Moses happy. She thanked him for risking his life to find her, while Moses just wanted to know why she had left that morning. Zephyr said she was used to living alone, while Moses said no one should live alone. Just then, Tucker reappeared. This time, he decided to hold a show during the day. When Zephyr woke up, she saw Moses suspended over the sea like the previous victims. Tucker flipped the switch, lowering Moses slowly toward the water. Zephyr told him to stop and said she would go up in Moses' place, but Tucker didn't care and continued with his plan. He then used the camera to prepare to record the bloodbath. Thinking Moses would not escape his tragic fate, Zephyr quickly reminded him not to move or make a sound. Sure enough, the sharks lost interest in their prey and swam away. Tucker was very surprised by this and pulled Moses back onto the boat, but instead of stopping, he stabbed Moses twice in the stomach with a knife and threw him back into the sea, confident that the blood would drive the sharks into a frenzy to attack their prey. Just then, a helicopter appeared in the distance, forcing Tucker to postpone the show. Moses was now severely bleeding and lying motionless, while Zephyr struggled to escape the handcuffs. In desperation, she decided to dislocate her finger to make it easier to pull out. Before she could do anything else, Tucker reappeared with a plate of food. He expressed admiration for Zephyr's will to survive. He said that Zephyr wasn't right for Moses, because Zephyr was like a solitary, cold-hearted shark who couldn't love anyone. Those words pierced Zephyr's heart like an invisible knife. After Tucker left, she continued with her plan, but her hands were still unable to pull away. But when she looked at Moses, who was growing weaker, Zephyr decided to do the unimaginable. She bit off her own thumb so she could escape the handcuffs. That night, Tucker returned to the cell and discovered the bed stained with blood. When he pulled back the blanket, he found only Zephyr's finger there. Zephyr quickly hid behind the door, ran outside, and locked it, trapping Tucker inside. She didn't expect that he always carried a repair kit in his bag, which he used to remove the window hinges and find a way out. After locking Tucker in the compartment, Zephyr rushed to the control room to start the engine and tried to accelerate the ship toward land. It didn't take long for Tucker to find his way to the engine room and disable the entire electrical system. Seeing a seaside amusement park ahead, Zephyr tried to find the flare box. Just then, Tucker appeared, forcing her to use the flare to attack him. Zephyr ran into the kitchen and locked the door, then broke the window above to escape outside. However, Tucker managed to break down the door and pull her down. Zephyr quickly grabbed a frying pan and a knife. He lunged forward, only to be stabbed in the hand by Zephyr and hit in the face with the pan. Zephyr quickly ran outside again. She then jumped straight into the sea to swim towards the mainland. Tucker shone his light and spotted Zephyr. He intended to use his spear gun to knock Zephyr down, but she had already swum out of range. Tucker didn't give up. He got on a motorboat and chased after her. When Zephyr touched land and screamed for help, Tucker caught up, knocked her to the ground, and covered her mouth, causing Zephyr to pass out. When Zephyr woke up, she was suspended from a crane, about to become the next meal for the sharks. Moses was still exhausted from blood loss, only able to helplessly watch the girl he loved about to be sacrificed to the ocean. In the darkness of the sea, all hope seemed lost. Just then, a male white shark appeared underwater. Tucker was thrilled to see a white shark for the first time, so he hurriedly lowered Zephyr into the sea and recorded everything on his new camera. However, a female shark appeared and ruined the program. Tucker used a hook to try to chase the female shark away, but the two struggled with each other, causing Tucker to accidentally drop the hook into the sea. Zephyr quickly grabbed the hook to protect himself, and surprisingly, the female shark did not attack and swam away. After that, Zephyr used the hook to climb onto the wooden pole to stay away from the water. Excited by this display of strength, Tucker took out his camera to record the moment of survival before being eaten by the shark. Zephyr tried to untangle the rope from the hook and fell into the water. In the darkness of the sea, Zephyr saw the giant predator approaching her, but instead of panicking, she remained calm and didn't move a muscle. Sure enough, the white shark ignored its prey, probably not fond of eating oysters. Having escaped death, Zephyr seized the opportunity to gently climb onto the boat. Not only that, she also picked up the spear gun Tucker had thrown on the floor. Tucker still didn't know that Zephyr had crept up behind him. When he realized it, Zephyr pulled the trigger, sending an arrow into his body and sending him plummeting into the sea. Zephyr calmly walked across the boat, watching the murderer struggle beneath the waves. He tried to swim back to the ship, but the great white shark smelled the blood and swam over, turning Tucker into its meal. The nightmare was over, and Zephyr saw a yacht moving nearby. She quickly climbed to the highest point and used flares to send a distress signal. The yacht also spotted them and sent a signal that it was moving to provide assistance. By this time, Moses had lost consciousness due to excessive blood loss. Zephyr tried to wake Moses up but failed. Zephyr confessed that Moses was the reason she no longer lived alone. Moses woke up and said he already knew the answer, and the two rejoiced in happiness. The movie Jurassic World ends with the affirmation that no predator is more terrifying than humans, but no power can overcome faith, life, and love. The movie is over now. What do you think about this movie? Please leave your positive comments below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you next time.